the uninvited. Every night, the same unnerving ritual, the click of the lock, the tug to ensure the window was secure, and the whispered hope that this time, it would stay closed. But like clockwork, I'd awaken to the chill of the night air and the haunting creak of the hinges. The window was always wide open, a silent invitation to the unknown. I tried to convince myself it was just a prank, a trick of the wind, or even a fault in the old house's structure. Yet, the feeling of being watched was undeniable. The shadows seemed to cling a little too closely, forming shapes that my mind struggled to ignore. And there, just beyond the glass, the outline of someone, or something, loomed, a darker patch against the night sky. The first time I saw it, I froze, my breath caught in my throat. It was a figure, tall and still, its features obscured by the darkness. I wanted to scream, to run, but I was paralyzed, trapped in the gaze of this silent watcher. Each night, it returned, and each morning, I questioned my sanity. I began to research, poring over old records and news clippings. The house had a history, one steeped in tragedy and whispers of a curse. They spoke of a figure, a protector turned malevolent watcher, bound to the house by some unspeakable pact. It was said that once it marked you, your nights would never again be your own. Desperate, I reached out to mediums, paranormal experts, anyone who might shed light on my plight. They came, they sensed, and they left, fear tainting their words. It's not just a ghost, they'd say. It's something older, something angrier. Tonight, I sit, pen in hand, chronicling my story in the hope that someone will find the answers I couldn't. The lock clicks open on its own, a sound now more familiar than my heartbeat. The window swings wide, and the chill embraces me. I turn, slowly, to face the watcher, to demand answers, to reclaim my nights. But as our eyes meet, I realize the truth. The watcher isn't just here to observe. It's waiting, biding its time, and I can't help but wonder, what is it waiting for? The days blurred into nights, and the nights into a relentless cycle of dread. I couldn't escape the watcher's gaze, its eyes like twin voids, pulling me into a darkness I couldn't fathom. Sleep eluded me, replaced by the gnawing fear that clung to my bones. I sought answers in forgotten corners of the library, poring over ancient texts and crumbling manuscripts. The house whispered its secrets, the creaking floorboards, the flickering candles, the portraits with eyes that followed me. The watcher was no mere ghost, it was a manifestation of something older, something primal. The townspeople avoided my gaze, their lips sealed by generations of fear. They spoke of a pact, a bargain struck in desperation. The house had once belonged to a reclusive artist, a man who painted scenes of unspeakable horror. His obsession led him to the edge of madness, and in his darkest hour, he made a deal with the shadows. The pact was simple, immortality in exchange for his art. But immortality came with a price, the artist's soul bound to the house, forever tormented by the watcher. And now, that curse had passed to me. I was the unwitting inheritor of a legacy stained with blood and regret. I confronted the watcher one moonless night, my voice trembling as I demanded answers. "What do you want from me?" I whispered, my breath visible in the cold air. The figure remained silent, its form shifting like smoke. It had no mouth, no eyes, yet I sensed its hunger. The watcher pointed to the canvas in my studio, the one I'd been working on for weeks. The subject was a woman, her face twisted in agony, her eyes pleading for release. I'd painted her from memory, or perhaps from a dream, the details blurred, the colors bleeding into one another. But the watcher saw something I couldn't. "You seek to capture her essence," it murmured, its voice echoing in my mind. "To trap her pain within the strokes of your brush. But she is not yours to paint." I tore the canvas from the easel, my hands trembling. "Who is she?" I demanded. "Why does she haunt me?" The watcher's shadowy form shifted, elongating. "She was the artist's muse," it said. "His lover, his torment. He painted her until she faded into the canvas, her soul forever trapped. And now, he seeks to complete the cycle, to paint you, to bind your essence to the house. Why?" I choked out. "What purpose does it serve?" The watcher leaned closer, its presence suffocating. He feeds on your fear, it whispered. Each stroke of your brush nourishes him. And when the canvas is complete, he will claim you as his masterpiece. I stumbled back, my mind reeling. The Watcher was a conduit, a bridge between worlds. It needed me to finish the painting, to complete the cursed cycle. But I refused. I would not be a pawn in this twisted game. As dawn approached, I made my decision. I would break the pact, sever the ties that bound me to the house. But the Watcher had other plans. It stepped closer, its form merging with mine. You cannot escape, it hissed. The artist's hunger is insatiable. And soon, you will join the gallery of lost souls. The house groaned under the weight of secrets, its walls pulsing with memories. I had little time left. The Watcher's hunger grew insatiable, its shadowy form merging with mine. The canvas lay discarded, its surface marred by half-formed strokes, a testament to my defiance. I sought refuge in the attic, where dust-covered trunks held relics of the past. Among them, a brittle journal, the artist's confessions etched in faded ink. His words revealed the truth. The muse was no stranger. She was his sister, her laughter echoing through the halls before tragedy struck. A fall from the window, a broken promise, and a pact forged in desperation. The artist had painted her, capturing her essence as she slipped away. But the curse demanded more, a sacrifice to bind her soul to the house. He chose another, a young girl, innocent and unsuspecting. The girl's screams echoed through the night, her life force seeping into the brushstrokes. The Watcher was born. I traced the artist's journey, following the clues to the basement, a place untouched by sunlight, where the walls whispered and the air tasted of decay. There, in the flickering candlelight, I found the final canvas, the one he'd never completed. The girl's face stared back at me, her eyes pleading for release. The Watcher materialized, its form shifting between light and shadow. Finish it, it urged. Complete the cycle. I hesitated, torn between duty and defiance. The artist's hunger clawed at my insides, urging me to pick up the brush. But the muse's eyes haunted me, the pain, the betrayal. She deserved peace, not eternal torment. I dipped the brush into crimson paint, my hand trembling. The canvas absorbed the color, the girl's features emerging, her lips parted in a silent scream, her eyes accusing. The Watcher leaned closer, its breath cold against my neck. Almost there, it murmured. One stroke, and it will be done. But I hesitated. The artist's curse had twisted love into obsession, art into madness. I couldn't perpetuate his legacy. I couldn't condemn another soul. The Watcher's patience waned. You think you can defy fate? It hissed. The cycle must continue. The house demands it. I closed my eyes, the brush slipping from my fingers. No, I whispered. Not this time. The room trembled, the walls cracking, the floorboards splintering. The Watcher's form fractured, its essence unraveling. You cannot escape, it spat. The artist's hunger will consume you. But I had a plan. The attic held the artist's final masterpiece, the one he'd never shown the world. If I destroyed it, severed the link, perhaps the curse would break. As I climbed the stairs, the Watcher followed, its rage palpable. You cannot undo what's been done, it warned. The pact is eternal. But I had nothing left to lose. The attic door swung open, revealing the canvas, the girl's face twisted in agony, her eyes pleading for release. I raised the brush, my hand steady this time. And then, I painted over her, each stroke erasing the curse, each color reclaiming her essence. The Watcher screamed, its form dissolving into nothingness. The house trembled, its walls weeping. As the last stroke fell, the window slammed shut, the room bathed in sunlight. The curse lifted, and the muse's spirit soared, finally free. But the artist's hunger remained, a whisper in the wind. And every night, I wake to find the window wide open, the Watcher waiting. For now, I am the uninvited, bound by a pact that defies time. And so, I write this final entry, my plea to whoever finds these words. Beware the house with the open window, the Watcher awaits, hungry for souls, and it will never rest. Story 2. The Crimson Faucet. I awoke to a chilling silence, the kind that screams louder than any cacophony. My head pounded with the rhythm of a forgotten nightmare, and as I tried to sit up, a wave of dizziness forced me back onto the pillow. The room was dim, the only light coming from the sliver of a moon peeking through the curtains. It was then I noticed the stark contrast against the white sheets, a crimson stain spreading beneath my hands. Panic clawed at my throat as I lifted my hands, the red so vivid against my skin it seemed almost surreal. I stumbled to the bathroom, the metallic scent of blood following me. Under the harsh bathroom light, I watched in horror as the water from the faucet ran clear, then slowly turned a deep, ominous red. It was as if the very pipes were bleeding. The sight was so bizarre, so impossible, that I questioned my sanity. I had no cuts, no wounds. My mind raced for an explanation, but the harder I thought, the more elusive the truth became. I was alone in my apartment, or so I thought until I heard the faintest whisper. It was like a sigh, a breath carried across the room that made the hairs on my neck stand on end. I turned slowly, half expecting to see someone behind me, but there was nothing. Just the echo of my own heartbeat filling the silence. I decided to search the apartment, every dark corner and closed door, but found nothing amiss. Yet, the feeling of being watched never left me. As the night progressed, the occurrences grew stranger. Objects moved without reason, shadows danced where light should not reach, and the air grew thick with the scent of iron. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong, that some malevolent force had invaded my home. The climax of the night came when I found myself standing before the mirror once again, the reflection not my own. It was a face twisted in anguish, eyes hollow with despair. It mouthed words I couldn't hear, a plea or perhaps a warning. And then, as quickly as it appeared, it was gone, leaving me to question if it had been there at all. I knew then that I couldn't stay, that whatever haunted me was bound to this place. As I packed a bag with trembling hands, the lights flickered, and a cold dread settled in my bones. The last thing I saw before fleeing into the night was the faucet, dripping blood that was not there before. The town of Hollowbrook was a place forgotten by time. Its streets were lined with ancient oaks, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The townspeople whispered of curses and restless spirits, but I dismissed their tales as folklore until that fateful night. I rented a small cottage on the outskirts of Hollowbrook, drawn by its eerie charm. The walls bore the weight of centuries, and the floorboards creaked with secrets. The realtor had warned me about the faucet, the one in the bathroom that dripped blood, but I laughed it off. Superstitions had no place in my rational mind. Yet, as the days turned into weeks, I felt the house watching me. Shadows shifted in corners, and the air grew colder. The faucet became my nightly ritual. I'd stand before it, staring at the crimson droplets, wondering if they held answers. But they remained silent, mocking my ignorance. One moonless night, I heard the whisper again. It was a woman's voice, soft and desperate. "Help me," she pleaded. I followed the sound to the attic, where an old mirror stood covered in dust. Its glass was warped, reflecting a room that didn't exist, a room with a bed, a vanity, and a woman sitting there, her eyes hollow, her hands stained red. Her name was Evelyn, and she had lived in this very cottage a century ago. She was a healer, they said, skilled in herbs and potions. But her gift came with a price. She could see beyond the veil, into the realm of the dead. And when her husband fell ill, she made a pact with the spirits. They granted her the power to heal, but in return, she had to offer them blood. Evelyn's husband recovered, but the spirits hungered for more. She bled herself, day after day, until her veins ran dry. The walls absorbed her sacrifice, and the faucet became their conduit. The water turned red, carrying her life force to the other side. "Why?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Because they never let go," Evelyn whispered. "They crave the living. And now, they want you." I tried to leave, but the cottage held me captive. The walls closed in, the shadows thickened. The faucet dripped incessantly, and the water tasted of iron. I saw her face in the mirror, pleading, her eyes accusing. She had become a prisoner of her own gift, forever bound to this cursed place. And then, one night, as I stood before the faucet, I felt a sharp pain in my chest. My hands trembled, and blood spilled from my mouth. The spirits were taking their toll, draining me like they had drained Evelyn. I stumbled to the attic, collapsing before the mirror. Evelyn's reflection smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "You're the last," she said. "The final offering." The room blurred, and I saw her husband, still alive, his eyes haunted. He had betrayed her, sealed her fate. And now, I was the vessel, the bridge between worlds. As I write this, the walls close in, and the faucet drips relentlessly. The water is no longer red, it's black, thick like tar. I can hear them whispering, hungry for release. But I won't let them take me. I'll break the curse, even if it means sacrificing myself. The cottage became my prison, its walls closing in like the jaws of some ancient beast. The mirror in the attic held my reflection, but it was no longer mine. My eyes had lost their color, replaced by an abyss that seemed to swallow my soul. Evelyn's whispers echoed through the rooms, urging me to remember, to understand. I delved into the town's history, desperate for answers. The townspeople avoided my gaze, their eyes filled with pity. They knew the truth, the curse that bound me to this place. Hollowbrook had always been a thin veil between worlds, a place where the living and the dead brushed against each other. Evelyn had merely torn that veil wider. The moon waxed and waned, and I grew weaker. The faucet dripped incessantly, its black water staining my hands. I tried to resist, to ignore the hunger that gnawed at my insides, but the spirits demanded their due. I had become their vessel, a conduit for their malevolence. Evelyn's husband haunted my dreams. His face twisted with guilt, his eyes accusing. He had betrayed her, sealed her fate. And now, I was paying the price. The mirror whispered secrets, of forbidden rituals, of blood spilled on ancient stones, of promises made in desperation. I traced the lines of the mirror, hoping to find a way out. The attic held relics, dusty books, dried herbs, and a dagger with an obsidian blade. I studied the texts, deciphering cryptic symbols and incantations. The spirits grew restless, their whispers turning into screams. They wanted release, and they would take it from me, one drop of blood at a time. I confronted Evelyn in the mirror. "Why?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "Why did you do this?" Her reflection smiled, hollow and sad. "Love," she said. "Desperation. The need to save a life. But the spirits are insatiable. They crave more than flesh, they hunger for souls. I had to break the cycle." The dagger gleamed in the moonlight, its blade sharp and hungry. I traced the symbols on my skin, chanting the incantation. The mirror trembled, and Evelyn's face contorted in agony. She pleaded, begged me to stop, but I couldn't. The spirits had taken too much. As the blade pierced my flesh, the room shook. The walls bled, and the faucet roared like a river of blood. I screamed, my voice merging with Evelyn's. The mirror shattered, shards of glass embedding themselves in my skin. The pain was exquisite, a symphony of agony and release. And then, silence. I woke up in the hospital, bandaged and disoriented. The doctors spoke of a near-fatal accident, of blood loss and hallucinations. But I knew the truth. The curse had been broken. The spirits were gone, their hunger sated. Evelyn's face haunted my memories, her sacrifice etched into my soul. I left Hollowbrook, the cottage a fading nightmare in my rearview mirror. But sometimes, when the moon is full and the night is still, I hear her whisper. She thanks me, curses me, and begs me to remember. I am the last, the final offering. And as I wash my hands, the water turns red, as if it were bleeding too. The end. Subscribe for more. Thank you.